Hello, and welcome to the number 2 Valorant podcast in the world, slightly behind Plat Chat Valorant. Welcome to episode 10 of Cosmic Divide. This is our Champs 2023 preview episode, but before we get into that, I have to let TMV say a few words directly to you.
Okay, so yes, and we talked about this maybe being a episodely segment perhaps as well, where I just go on a rant. Maybe it will, maybe it won't, but I have to rant today. And by the time that this comes out, maybe, you'll like vaguely remember this or whatever, but it'll probably be in the back of your mind. You'll probably be more, excited for Champs and looking forward to it. But we've just, I would say, come out of the tail end of Leo Faria, the head of Valorant esports, talking basically about, Tier 2 and where it's going. Because, of course, we all agree that Tier 2 has some problems, right? Everyone is in agreement. Riot, the players and the coaches and the people on the outside, we're all in agreement. We're all shaking hands about how Tier 2 has some problems. And so Leo was talking about, and in fact, this whole thing started off with Leo talking about, hey, we've got some announcements that hopefully, will be positive for the direction of Tier 2, right? And that's what this all started about. And then as things, went in, a discussion started between people, on social media and stuff like that. And people replying to Leo and him making certain tweets and saying certain things. And people were getting very irate. And then people started making some of the most brain dead takes I have ever seen. In fact, I remember last year as well. I can't remember exactly what it was about, but I remember last year there was something that I saw on social media about Valorant where it felt like the whole Valorant community just decided to, what if we just had no brain cells but still used our keyboards to type little tweets? That is what it felt like. Maybe it was the Acend versus FPX kind of hubbub. I can't really remember, but it was around this time last year. Something else went off, and it reminded me of that. Like, oh yeah, I remember thinking before the Valorant community was brain dead, and now here we see it again. And the thing is, it's not just the people, right? You expect the little ants that know nothing but still type away, right? The brain dead ants that don't know anything about anything. They're always going to tweet about everything, right? That's how we get flat earthers, because the little mindless ants just tweet away and they go, yeah, I know what I'm talking about, whatever. And they're going to be everywhere, right? It's not those people that annoy me because they're everywhere, right? You can't avoid them if you go on social media. It's the people with inside the scene who apparently just, I don't know, their memories got wiped, but yet they still know how to type and are just tweeting the most stupid stuff I have ever seen. Right, so let's get this right. We're starting off with the first thing is, as I said, we all agree Tier 2 has problems, particularly the schedule. That's the main problem, right, is the Tier 2 schedule. The 6 months off, orgs are going to, just get rid of their players for 6 months. You only get kind of employed for half the year if you're a player in Tier 2, which is great, can pretty easily be fixed. And I'm sure will be fixed because, as I said, it's not that hard to move around the schedule. Makes sense to put the Tier 2, the start of Tier 2, maybe a month, maybe 2 months before Tier 1. Get people invested in those stories early on in the year, whilst it's the only games that are on. Makes a lot of sense. Makes the off-season shorter. Makes a lot of sense, right? And maybe they'll do something like that. We'll have to see. But then you've got people just talking about things that were already, like we've already discussed. We've already gone past it last year when the partnership system was announced, right? You've got people talking about like, oh, this is why partnerships are bad, bro. Oh, franchise systems don't work, bro, because it's some teams just ain't gonna try. They ain't gonna try, bro. What's the incentive? We've been through this. This is not. There's a reason why Riot didn't call it a franchise system, because it's not a franchise system. Because you don't have to pay to get in. Riot is paying the teams to play, and so if you just didn't want to try when Riot is paying you to play, then you don't want to be an esports org. You just leave. There's just no reason to be in there, right? If you want to save the money, then just don't be in esports. That's how you save the money, because guess what? You're always going to lose money in something like this. That's the way it works, okay? So there's that part of it. So we've already been through the whole discussion of, how Valorant system is different to a normal franchise system, and Riot would be stupid if they didn't put in those contracts. Oh, by the way, if, you don't meet our expectations or clearly aren't trying or stuff like that, Riot is the one paying them to be a part of the league. Why would Riot not put in those contracts? We can just kick you out for whatever reason we want. We own all the cards. We have all the power. We're footing the bill. Get out, right? That's not how it works in other franchise systems. So that's the first point, right? That people have just forgotten that, apparently, that, wait a minute, this isn't quite like other franchise systems, and that this is a more modern system that might make more sense in this modern world, right? It's got the money to foot the bill. They get the power. They can use that power to do what they want. And then, though, it gets worse because you've got people, and I mean, like, you got Ludwig tweeting about this as well, right? Saying that, oh, I've been pushing for relegation. How does that make any sense, right? We need stability in tier 2. So you know the way to get stability in tier 2? Relegate the tier 1 teams. That's the way we do it. We make instability in tier 1. That will surely fix all of the problems, right? And what happens when both Japanese teams get relegated? Or maybe both Latam teams from Americas gets relegated? And then no representation. What happens then? Oh, whoops, don't care because I want money. Like, what are we talking about? Obviously, that makes no sense. The whole idea, this Ascension system, is great. And yes, we got people talking about like, oh, but what happens when the Guard win champs? And then it's like, well, now these players, hey, you've just won champs, now go back down to tier 2. Those players are stupid if they are signing a contract with an Ascended team past the 2 years. Why would you do that if you're a player? Use your brain. Like, why? Think about it for 2 seconds. If you're a player who's playing for one of these Ascension orgs, the max contract you're going to sign is those 2 years, and then you're going to want to be a free agent. Obviously. Like, what is going on? And then you've got Leo talking about the guests as well, and he said, guests, and everyone went uproar. Guest team? Oh, you can't call them a guest team. You got God tweeters playing out. Oh, I'm getting called a guest. Your org doesn't want to be in esports anymore. Your org is a guest esports org at this point. They don't even want to be in it anymore. And you've kind of forced them against their will because now they're kind of getting paid for it to stay in esports. And they don't even want to be. And sorry that someone speaking a second language used the term guest, which is correct. You are a guest. You are staying there for a certain amount of time and then leaving and on a full-time fixture of it, i.e. a guest. And people are getting irate about this as well. Oh my God, I can only imagine what Leo was thinking. Like, he must have been reading these replies and these tweets from people, again, inside the scene and being like, why are these people in such an uproar about nothing? Why have these people just collectively lost their minds? Yes, tier 2 has problems. This whole thing started with Leo saying, we're going to make an announcement, hopefully correcting some of the problems. Of course it has problems. That's him recognizing it has problems and trying to solve said problems. What are you people talking about? The Valorant system is good. Leave it alone. And the moral of the story is, don't go on social media. That's the moral of the story. Because you know what? The brain dead takes are going to be there no matter what. The way you avoid what I've just experienced is just don't go on it. That's what you do. Okay? That's my rant. Let's get on to champs, shall we?
Well, one thing I will say about social media is it allows all of us to experience what you just went through. So that is a good thing. Anyway, I appreciate that. I agree with you. I think that there are some inherent problems in the Tier 2 scene. I think there's problems in every esports Tier 2 scene. Nobody's figured it out. Riot is trying. I do think that, there are some things that are said that I kind of agree with some people just because at the end of the day, Riot is a company. They care about making money. That is the number one reason that they have an esport in the first place, is because they want to make money. And this is a marketing vehicle for that. So everybody needs to remember that. They don't actually care about the players in Tier 2 having a career. The only reason they want you to have a career is that so you can make their Tier 1 marketing campaign look better. And as long as everybody understands that, maybe we can all have a slightly less brain dead discussion about it. That being said, let's go to our Champs 2023 preview. And let's just start with Group A. Let's stay let's stay away from the group of disappointment because I don't want you to have to rant again right off the bat.
Yeah, let's start with Group A, which is a group of hope, I would say. I think this is probably the group that I'm maybe most excited to looking forward to. Paper Rex Crew and EDG Giants. I just made a video about Giants today, so I'll start there if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's
Talking
do
about
it.
Giants, because to me, when I was going through Giants and I was making a little video about them today, I said that they're a team that annoy me. Sorry about the rant, and now we're getting on to a team that annoys me, but they're a team that annoy me not because they do anything wrong. It's just that they just meet expectation. They're just a team that just meets expectation all the time. Like, oh, we lost it like in the regular season. Okay, they had one bad game against Heretics. They lost to Team Liquid, Navi, and Fnatic, the kind of big three of EMEA, and they beat everyone else, right? And then, coming into LCQ and whatever, oh, well, there's 2 slots. Giants look pretty good. They'll probably make it. They make it. They're just like, I need Giants to beat. I need them to beat EDG or Paper Rex, basically, is what I'm saying. Because otherwise, this whole team's year will have just been, we did what we probably expected to do. And so I need them. If they just lose to EDG, like beat Crew or lose to Crew and then, whatever, go out, I'm just going to be like, I'm sick of this team. Do something, Giants. I'm that poke with a stick meme guy. Do something.
Cool. And to take another meme from the internet to illustrate this team, I feel like this is one of those teams that's very much like guy on bike sticking stick in spoke and crashing. Because they're kind of a team that it feels almost like they're in control of their own destiny in a lot of the cases, but then they just like have like 1 or 2 bad rounds that loses them the game. They seem to be. This is kind of like, I can't point to any specific round, but they strike me as a team that is one of those that will just lose the wrong round at the wrong time, where it's like, oh, we just crushed our economy, but it's 10-11 or 10-12 in the game score, and now it's just like kind of an impossible game to win. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Could they beat Edward? For sure. Like if they play very, very fundamentally solid, Edward is definitely a team that will like feed into them because they are incapable of playing at anything other than like breakneck speed a lot of the time. I mean, we did see Edward come in with sort of a new wrinkle to their game where they are able to default and do kind of more strategic stuff. But something tells me that the vast majority of their success probably ever is going to come because they can turn up the heat when they need to. And I just don't really feel like the Giants is a team that is necessarily going to be caught off guard by that, because I think they kind of just play a very stable style. As you said, they're a very stable team in general. What would you say is like the percentage chance that Giants has to beat Edward in round 1?
Like 35.
Okay.
They're underdogs for sure, but yeah, there's definitely a world where you could see it. I mean, for some of these games, you're looking at them like, yeah, no way. But this is a game where you could see Giants win. In fact, I could see Giants winning and then like losing to Paper Rex, and then EDG just go through the lowers and beat them the second time. Like that seems like a distinct possibility to me. So yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised if that happened. But shall we go to the other game in this group? Paper Rex versus Crew. 2 teams that I think everyone's kind of excited to, see what's going to happen. I think obviously Paper Rex with something. It's quite interesting. I did my top 10, top like 10, 20 list or whatever, and I've seen some others as well. And one comment that comes up a lot in that is like, why are people ranking something so high? He on an international stage, he hasn't proved anything. And that's, I guess, true. Although I guess International Pacific is an international stage, so. But, at a Masters tournament or a Champs here, he hasn't been to one of those tournaments. So can you be sure he's that good? But I mean, he's just so good. Like, he's just wrecked everyone. And for Crew, my quick point on Crew would be, I am a little worried that, like, for Giants, for instance, they didn't lose a map in all of their LCQ. I know the last game against Navi was kind of, not real. And so they only really played 2 games. But they didn't lose a map. And it looked pretty convincing in most maps. Whereas Crew often did drop a map, right? And we're close to. They almost got eliminated by Fury before even making that run. So that does worry me a bit. That as the level of competition steps up, you go 1-0 down against Paper Rex, and it's like, that miracle run that you've been hoping to go on. It's not going to happen against some of these best teams. That would be my worry for them.
Yeah, I think my read on this is one of like, just kind of like general unease for both teams because I want Paper X to like actually realize their potential. We saw them do this crazy run with a stand-in at Tokyo, and I just want them to be at full force, and I want them to not have a hiccup of performance. It's always one of those things with these like very kind of like wild, eclectic teams that they can just have an off tournament. It's possible that they just come in with some ideas that are just not working. They do rely quite a bit on like individual plays to win rounds, and we've talked about sort of the inconsistencies of having these win conditions that are not like a reliable set way of winning rounds. And then on the side of Crew, they could show up in LCQ form, in which case they are a very dangerous team. I wouldn't say necessarily even in that form they are good enough to beat peak Paper X, but again, if they find Paper X playing kind of like a middling level and they're at LCQ form, I could see them beating them in the first round. At the same time, I could also see Crew coming in with sort of like maybe they aren't able to recapture that sort of like fuck it energy that they had at LCQ, because now there's like, oh, champions on the line. This is a lot more pressure. This is a lot more stakes. Yep. And it's hard to recapture that. Like, we don't really care too much. Let's just like play the game and have fun. Which again, I don't even know if that was necessarily their mentality, because they looked very structured and very organized. But yeah, I guess I'm just kind of worried for both teams. I just hope that both of them show up. It should be a banger game. And then assuming that Paper X win, which I would say is probably, I'm going to go a little bit lower. I'm going to say like a 65% chance that Paper X wins. I'm sure that a lot of people are like, 90% that they beat Crew. I'll say like 65%. I just hope that Crew then comes into the lower bracket and is not just like a non-existent team. Because I could see them coming out of this group if, again, they are playing at LCQ levels. Yeah, I don't know. It should be a really good game, though.
I think that this is the group where I think out of all of them, like, I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, Group D, you could maybe make an argument that who even is the underdog in some of those games, like if you believe in certain teams. But out of the other three groups, this is the one where I think could Crew and Giants like win both their games and end up in the winners? Like, yeah, I could see that. I think for me, Paper X, if they like have a bad tournament, Paper X, I think the question around them is going to be, do they know how to deal with expectations? Mm-hmm. Because Masters Copenhagen, like, they obviously finished second. And coming into the tournament, there wasn't a ton of it. Like, they were known, obviously, as a decent team. They finished fourth in Master Reykjavik. But I don't think anyone, like, thought, oh, this team's going to, this is the tournament these guys win. But then coming into Champs after finishing second, there was big expectation. And then they lost. And then that continued kind of a lock-in where, they were one of the few teams that stuck all together. And it's like, that's going to be an advantage. So, maybe they can bounce back here. I even predicted them to win. And they bounce out straight away. And so, but then going into Masters Tokyo, there's no expectation because you're playing with a sub. So again, like now that the expectation has been built high, where I think, Paper X would probably be most people's like second favorite after Fnatic, or third, somewhere in there. Like, if they bomb out again, there's going to be big questions about, like, do they just not handle the pressure of being expected to win? Is that just not is something that they just can't deal with?
All right, guys, we got to take a quick break to talk about your aim because it stinks, and our sponsor Nifter wants to help you out. They just dropped the sleekest sleeve in the game, and I want you to slap one of these bad boys on your aiming arm to get that smooth, silky glide across your mousepad. We're talking frictionless flicks and tension-free tracking. The Nifter sleeve comes in whatever size you need to guarantee a skin-tight feel with material that is both sweat-wicking and seamless for a no-chafe experience. Trust me, nobody wants to duo queue with a swampy, nerd sweat elbow having sticking to their desk ass duelist. Nobody. Get the Nifter gaming arm sleeve using the link in the description below and use code ACEND10, that's ACEND 10 for 10% off at checkout. Now back to the episode.
But shall we move on to Group B then?
Let's do it.
EG versus FPX. Now, I've had a brief watch of the Chinese teams not named EDG, just to get a bit of a flavor for them. And FPX, the thing that just struck me straight away with this team is just their comps that they run. Have you seen some of the FPX comps, like where they're running Astra Omen on multiple maps? What was it on Bind? They were playing Reyna Jet, I think, as well. Like a
I've
lot of.
not done my dive onto FPX yet,
Oh,
so
okay. Well, yeah, you're in for a bit of a treat. It's the Bind comp here is Brim, Reyna Jet, Fade Sky, like literally the most aggressive comp, but somehow not playing Raze also on on Bind. And then
sure.
like Ascent. On Ascent, they're playing Astra, Omen, Sky, Killjoy Jet. So yeah, and on Pearl they're
Mm.
playing Astra, Omen as well. So they're playing some very bizarre comps, which is good. Like I kind of like that. I always think that if you're an underdog, you want to be playing weird, right? You don't want to come in playing like if you just turn up to Ascent and you're playing the normal comp against a team that's better than you, yeah, you're probably gonna lose, right?
Mhm.
Whereas this is we're playing weird. Maybe we catch EG off guard. Again, EG is another team where how do EG deal with expectations? Because again,
Right.
coming into this is a team that's never really played with high expectations before.
And they're the favorite of Group B by far
Yeah, and
because
they're the
this.
massive favorite in this
Yeah.
group. Yeah, so that's another team that how do they deal with that pressure? And especially against a team who's playing weird comps. And look, I think FBX probably are the worst team in this tournament,
Agreed.
but they have, some weird ideas, as I said, and that could catch them off guard. But if EG did lose this game, I'd be in panic mode, to be honest. EG should be able to win this game, even with the weird stuff going on.
Yeah, for me, I think this is one of those, like, this is like a 95% win for EG. I could see them coming in, being nervous on stage for the first game, losing map 1, and then just coming back and kind of crushing FPX in the next 2 games.
Yeah.
I could see that being the case. I think that, what we saw from EG at Tokyo is kind of in that same vein of like, well, was this a flash in the pan? Are they going to be able to replicate this? When we were talking about the VCT teams that need to make changes in our last episode, I was talking about how Leviathan have a problem, in my opinion, where their IGL is also their top fragger. I do see a little bit of that with EG, where Boostio is like maybe the most impactful player on this team. And obviously they have a lot of firepower, right? Jogamo is crazy good. Demon 1 has potential to be a crazy impactful player. He actually kind of wasn't at Tokyo. But so that is one thing that's like, can these, maybe younger, more inexperienced players step up? I think the one thing that kind of like gives me a little bit of a sense of calm is that Ethan is on this team, and he has, more experience than most people do in this game still, as far as like being a competitor. And he's just like a rock. He's just such a solid rock for this team. I really do want to give a lot of credit to Potter and just like the whole system that EG has built, because I think that alone will probably carry them through this group. We may see them falter later on in the tournament against some of the better teams that are really able to put the pressure on, and when those stakes do get higher because they're competing for a world championship. But in this group, I'm not that worried about them slipping up too much.
Yeah, this was like a dream for EG, really, because if they got like one of the other groups, that was tough, I think a lot of people would have been worried for EG that like, oh, they might slip up. Like they're the big team that I think everyone would be like, yeah, they're the most likely to slip up. But with this group, they should be good. I think really, if you're an EG Hopium believer, though, little NA Goblin Hopium, person, then your hope is that Demon 1 didn't have a great Tokyo. But what if he has a great champs, right? What if he plays at his best and everyone else still plays at the same level? Then they're, easily a team that could easily win the tournament, even against Fnatic. I mean, again, I always bring this up, but like, EG weren't that far away from beating Fnatic in that upper final, right? It was 2-1. Split was literally as close as it could be with that last round, 13-11. Like, who knows? It goes to overtime. If EG win that, they then get a double map ban in the grand finals. Like, Fnatic would maybe still be favorites, but, they weren't that far off. So, yeah, I think if Demon 1, does start to excel, and you have to remember as well, that was their first international tournament, like as a team, and for most of them, that was their first, international LAN. So, and they'll have a home crowd buff as well. I think EG
is that a buff or is that more pressure? Is the question.
Maybe that's more pressure, but they've definitely gained a few fans, I think, from this successful run. let's move on to our other game, which is a very interesting game. I think I did a power ranking of the teams, and I put these two teams right next to each other, I think. Foot and T1. This, I think, is a pure coin flip. And
Yeah.
I really could see it going either way. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean this really is one of those games where I struggle to kind of like figure out what the line is. I would have to do like so much research of like comparing map pools and like, okay, positions. Is Kiwi gonna find more first bloods than Saya player, that type of thing. I think it gets really granular. I think this one is almost like a you would I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna be just like a 2-0 stomp. But I say this is like an almost guaranteed 3 map, very close, like hard fought situation. Although we see a lot of these when there's like a break and then a big tournament where there's a lot of stomps early on because people come in with new stuff and people are not prepared. I think that this is maybe slightly edged towards T1. Just because they have Saya player who has quite a bit of experience on stage as a professional player. They have Carpe, who also has quite a bit of experience on stage as a professional player. Munchkin and Zeta are also both relatively experienced. And then I just think that they have a little bit more X factor from Saya player and Zeta and Munchkin than Foot does, because I think Foot is perhaps a little too reliant on Kiwi's performance to really be like a catalyst for them to win maps. And I do think that he will get his, but I also could see T1 being able to maybe like anti Foot a little bit more than Foot is going to be able to anti T1.
See, now I would say almost the exact opposite.
Okay.
I think that I would give the slight edge to Foot because there has been a massive break, and I'm pretty sure T1 have played the exact same comps for this whole year, and they've only played the same comps on every single map. And for me, when you've got a big break, and you got plenty of the opponents got announced, what, a week ago or whatever, right? So you've had plenty of time to kind of look at who your opponent is, study all their maps. I think that Foot have come up with some, pretty innovative, on Lotus, they were way ahead of people, playing like, kind of the neon and stuff. Yeah. Like, they came out of the gates on Lotus, like having a big advantage on everyone. And, they've played some weirder stuff as well, like, the Gecko on Haven, which I know didn't work well at Master Tokyo, but actually did work quite well in EMEA. Like, they did win on Haven quite a lot in EMEA. I think it was just that particular game that they didn't do too well. So I could definitely see a world where Foot do come in with something a bit weird, and T1, I'm pretty sure T1 will just come in with the old, this is what we're going to play, this is what we always play, away we go. And it's interesting, I'm going here, like, I mean, it's still a 50-50 game to me. I'm not, like, I'm talking about the slightest of edges. I mean, really, either team could win this game 2-0, and either team could stomp the other, and I wouldn't be surprised. I could literally see every single range of outcome for this game, and I would not be surprised, right? Close 2-1 either way, 2-0 stomp either way, anything in between, all on the table, and I'd be like, yeah, makes sense, right? Like, I could see an argument for all of it. It's just a very difficult game to kind of choose, because I think they're both teams where it's like, I don't know. And then most likely they will meet twice as well, right? Whoever wins this will probably lose to EG, assuming they win. And then, whoever loses will probably be FPX, and then they'll meet again probably in that decider. Right. Which then gets even weirder because obviously, they will have had so much prep time for each other, and then you play like twice very quickly. That might be a bit of a weird game. But yeah, I think we are in agreement somewhat that this, who knows? Who knows what will happen in that one? Right. Let's go to Group C, which might be a little top heavy.
The group of sadness with a C.
We got Fnatic versus Zeta Division. Go on, what percent do you give Zeta Division in this opening game?
85%. For Fnatic.
For 85. You give them 15. I'm surprised.
I'll give them 15.
That's a little high, I'll be honest.
I'll give them 15 because
You love Zeta Division, that's why.
I love Zeta Division. Zeta Division does have a very good Lotus, and Fnatic has shown their Lotus for the entire year, and I don't think they're going to change it. I think that Fnatic will play the same Lotus that they've been playing the entire year. They'll probably have some new stuff, but I would expect them to have a new map that they have stratted up. They usually have like they have recontracted Anders, who built their Lotus comp, built them a playbook. It's worked for the entire year. They've recontracted him. I assume he's going to work on another one of their maps, and that map will probably.
Ascent.
I was going to say it's either going to be Ascent or Pearl. Pearl's been their permaban, so they may just keep that as their permaban. But their Ascent has been kind of like mid compared to the rest of their map pool. So that was my thought.
I see them playing like Viper on Ascent, like Viper Killjoy.
Yeah, I could see them doing something a little bit funky there. I guess to me the real question is how many maps are they going to be able to put Laz on Chamber, and how much impact will that have for Zeta? I mean, again, like I said, I think this is a very clear Fnatic win, as sad as it makes me to say, but I could see some world where the map pool ends up giving Zeta a decent shot at this. But
I mean, you're gonna have to convince me. I don't see any. I mean, they obviously have a chance. They're playing the game, so there's always a chance. You're gonna have to convince me though, because I'm looking at this and I'm just like, I can't see a way. I can't see. Tell me what the win condition for Zeta is. When Zeta win this game, what's the story of how it happened? How does it happen in your mind?
Fnatic misses their flight to LA.
Yeah.
Moving on to game 2, NRG versus Billy.
Yeah, let's just move on. Let's just keep the mystery and suspense. NRG versus, it's not Billy. Is it? Someone told me I said it right before. Is it Billy? I thought it was Billy.
Let's spell really Bili.
Yeah. I've seen in other places though it wasn't spelled like that.
I also saw a comment at one point that somebody was like, nobody's pronouncing this correct, so I could be completely wrong.
I'm pretty sure I saw it. So I swear I've seen it somewhere spelled Billi, just then Bli, right? So missing that second I, but maybe not. Maybe it is Billy. Who knows? Let us know in the comments down below. Anyway, this team, Chinese team, I would say is less weird than FPX.
Yeah,
they're still a Chinese team. They're still like a little crazy at times. They're not as I said, FPX are like off in their own world playing weird comps. They play a lot more kind of standard comps on quite a few maps, right? They're quite almost meta, really. Like when you look at their comps across their map pool, like it is kind of almost a meta team somewhat, but that almost worries me. Again, like when you're playing as like a big underdog, that like maybe you can surprise NRG somewhat with how aggressive they'll be, or like certain things that they do that NRG won't maybe be used to the style of Chinese Valorant, but like comp wise, again they play a lot of meta stuff, so it's not like NRG will be surprised by that. But to me, really, I feel like again it's your first international tournament. I sort of know roughly, I think, where Billy or however you say it will be in terms of their performance. NRG, I'm very interested in NRG this tournament. I'm very interested to see, what they've cooked up. Are they playing something different comp-wise? Are they just trying to, go with the same stuff, but, like improve upon it? I'm interested to see what their direction is, because to me, NRG as a team, I'm like looking at them and I'm like, I'm very, very confident they'll finish in the top 6. I'm pretty confident they'll finish in the top 4.
Really?
I'm also pretty confident they won't win this tournament. Like, that is where I feel like NRG just are. They're almost like the DRX of, the past, right? Where it's like, I know they'll do well, but they aren't going to win it, because they're going to eventually come up against a team, be it, like, who could essentially be there. Like, they're going to come against Fnatic. They have no chance. If Loud get that deep, Loud are probably playing better than them. They, will be underdogs in that game. If EG get that deep, EG are probably playing well, and that's probably better than NRG as well, right? If it's Paper Rex and they've got that deep, they're probably playing really well, and they're probably going to beat them. It just feels like all the teams that you could see getting that deep in the tournament, it's just like I don't know what NRG's way of like stepping up is. Like having a massive leap, like we saw from like EG. I don't know what that is for NRG. Maybe it's like artists going crazy on like Chamber or something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's their path in. But what do you think?
Yeah, so Energy is a very interesting team. I just a couple of quick words on Billy.
Yeah.
Again, however you pronounce it. I think they are, to me, are like the next Edward Gaming in the sense that they're going to come in. They're probably going to catch Energy, who's a notoriously slow starter at tournaments, off guard in map 1. They're going to swing through smokes unexpectedly. They're going to push them in map 1, and then they're going to get slaughtered in map 2. That's how I see this going.
The classic Energy.
It'll be like a 13-11, maybe even an overtime game where you're like, oh, Energy looking a little shaky. Ooh, this new Chinese team, very, very aggressive, doing crazy stuff. Looks awesome.
And that'll be on NRG's map pick as well.
Yeah, and then Energy will just like,
13-5
them in map 2. And we'll be like, oh, okay.
They do it so often.
Yeah.
Even like late in tournaments last year, they did that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so that sounds like probably what's going to happen to me. As far as Energy's expectations for the entire tournament, I do tend to agree that they're this team that they look very good, but what is their X factor? And I think you may even be onto something here, which is that, to me, the thing that's really, truly held them back so far this year is that they just haven't had that, like, game-breaking performance from anybody on their team, which is what won them so many maps last year, which is that Ye is going for 35-9 on Chamber on Icebox or something like that. And I really do think
Marv, right? Even Marv.
Yeah, or Marv for sure. And to be fair to Som, I think Som has been a very good pickup for this team. He's
also way better than I think anyone had expectation that he would be.
Yeah,
considering
I would say,
like where he came from.
He's definitely in the conversation for like rookie of the year. Not that he's like a rookie because he was on Energy, in the past, but
like an international event rookie.
Yeah, he's like one of the breakout players of the year for me. But I do think that the potential return to Chamber could unlock this team in a way that they have not been unlocked so far. We haven't really seen artists be artists this year. He has been good. He's been flexible for them, but he hasn't been like old FPX artists where he is carrying the game.
Yeah.
And I think that if they really do lean into him being a bit more of that carry, it could kind of put this team back in the same sort of form that they were as Optic, because they have like essentially the same setup, right? They've got FNS calling. We know that he's one of the best callers in the game. They have the Victor's Crashies, the Victor and Crashies duo, which is just about as solid as you're going to get from a support duo in this game, and also, the clutch factor. And Som may be one of the best one-to-one comparisons to Marv that I could think of in North America, as far as being a smokes player who is both good at anchoring, makes good decisions, that also has these pop-off potential rounds. And then Artis, he can be as good as Ye was. We know this. We know that he can be.
Copenhagen, yeah.
He can be just as impactful as Ye was, and with a bit more time, with Chamber potentially being available, I could very well see this team making it to the finals. And if they were playing anybody other than Fnatic, I would maybe even favor them in that finals. But let's be honest, they're probably going to end up against Fnatic if they do make the finals, and I just don't see this particular Energy team beating Fnatic.
That's the problem. They're just Fnatic are NRG, but just better players.
Yeah.
Like, in my mind, that's just what they are. Like, they both have like the game plans and the big brain IGLs and all that, but then it's just like, but Fnatic just have slightly better players, and so they're just gonna win.
But at risk of completely making this group boring, I also could see a world where Zeta beats this team, because Well, I've just kind of like waxed poetic about how energy can be basically optic from last year. They also could have just not taken that step. They could just not be gelling in the way that allows them to do that. Artists may just not be able to find that form, and maybe they don't even like recognize that this is the potential that they have, and they could continue to kind of do what they've been doing all year, which is like shuffling things around, trying some interesting ideas, maybe not setting up artists the way that they used to set up Ye. I mean, one thing about Ye is that he was a very solo player, and Artist seems to be kind of like in the system for this team more than Ye was. And maybe they just need to unleash Artist a little bit, be like, go do your own thing on Bind, on Chamber, win us these rounds, win us these.
That is what I was going to say. Because I'm thinking of like Artist back at like Masters Copenhagen, and I'm fairly sure like, you know what, when Jets just run out on Ascent, like down catwalk, like on defense side and with an op, and they just peek in towards tiles and whatever. Yeah. Like I distinctly remember Artist being definitely one of the first people to consistently do that. And just like you have to have a lot of confidence in your teammates and yourself that I'm gonna hit the shot, I'm gonna get out, and I'm gonna survive, right? Because it's a very risky position.
Yeah.
And you just don't see that from him this year, I don't think. Like he's always playing like, yeah, I'll just hop in B main, guys, towards like like the B main entrance, I'll just like
he's been playing very, very safe this year, I would say,
I'll just
compared
stay
to
by
how he used
logs
to
with
play.
my op. Don't worry about it. Like it's just maybe he just needs to be unleashed a bit. But yeah, NRG are a bit of a weird team. I kind of hope that they cook something up crazy, like that Killjoy Phoenix Chamber comp they played last year. Give me something crazy for it.
Yeah,
but that's just what I want all the time.
Give me some like Victor Phoenix, some Ye Chamber. I think like I said, they should be good. They could be very, very good. I could also see them losing to Zeta Division if Zeta's on a heater and NRG has not evolved. So
yeah, what I don't want to see from NRG is that they beat Billy, they play Fnatic in the winners, get destroyed. I don't need to see that. Like if that happens, I'm just gonna be like, well, okay, there is no way you're winning this tournament. You're a boring team at that point because you're DRX from last year. Anyway, let's move on to the group of disappointment. And it's called the group of disappointment, but it's going to be very interesting to see these games.
Yes,
because I think most people probably have an expectation for both these games. Where Team Liquid Na'Vi, I think most people would say Team Liquid are going to win that game, and DRX Loud, I think most people are going to say Loud are going to win that game. But there is a definite chance that is not the way. And then even whoever wins, whoever loses, then has to play each other as well, and those are going to be really interesting games as well.
Yeah.
So this whole group is like, I don't even really know where to start. Let's start with Team Liquid Na'Vi, but I mean, these teams know each other very well.
Right.
What
was the regular season series against this team?
I was literally about to say the same thing. I'm pretty sure Na'Vi won against a sub Team Liquid the first time that they played. I remember that.
Was that was when
and that was actually close, and everyone was like, what are Na'Vi doing? How have they no struggled so much?
Wait, actually no. Wait, hold up. What? Okay, playoffs Team Liquid 2-0'd them. And
playoffs playoffs Team Liquid won. So I guess they're 1-1 on the year, but it kind of fraudulent 1-1.
Right.
I just don't know what to think of this game. Really, it's just. Like Na'Vi didn't look convincing at LCQ. I think that's the main thing. Had Na'Vi gone through LCQ and been like clearly the best team and just sailed through it, I probably would have been like, I might even favor Na'Vi. But they just look so. It's interesting. I was on Plat Chat and the guys on there were saying like Xiao and Sagetsu are still in form. I'm not sure they are.
I have not seen that.
I'm not sure they are because I'm watching Xiao and Sagetsu take 1v1 fights that last year was automatic. And even the start of this year, like at lock in, like it's just automatic. They just win those fights, and it's like you don't even think about it because they're just better. They aren't winning those 1v1s nearly as consistently. They aren't playing terribly, right? It's not like it's absolutely falling apart, but they just aren't. Like I don't know. It's just like it just seems like they need just a complete reset. Right, like they needed it. Felt like to me they needed a month off. Right, they really needed to not play an LCQ. They needed a month off to just not think about the game. Right, and just come back completely refreshed and just start again, basically. all feeling much happier having a break and whatever. I think that because they've had to play an LCQ as well, I just don't know if mentally they're just going to be there, because I feel like they're almost, it's like they're trying to catch up with themselves, essentially, you know, in their old form. And it feels like they're chasing it. And Team Liquid are okay.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think what makes this group even weirder is that 3 of these teams are having like internal chemistry issues, right? Because we know that Navi is having issues with the fact that CNET is just not fitting their system. You know, whether they've publicly said that or not, they have not, but we can all see it happening. We know that DRX is having weird internal roster issues because they keep putting in Foxy9, taking out Foxy9, putting in Foxy9, taking out Foxy9. There's all sorts of rumors about Loud, and there's been some public, you know, the players are beefing. Is Auspis friends with the team anymore? What's going to happen there? So the more I think about that, the more confident I am that Team Liquid will come out of this group as the #1 team.
Classic Team Liquid.
It really does seem to me that they are the most solid team just from a purely like structural standpoint. You know, the rest of these teams are literally like building a castle on a sandy base. It's like they all could be incredible. They all could be top 4 teams if they're all at their peak. But are any of them going to be able to put it together here? And I think another thing that makes this super weird is that you've got the Doom Bros versus Emil thing, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it does kind of seem that matchup has started to trend towards the Team Liquid brother at this point. You know, as good as Doom Bros has been as a coach, I think one of the advantages that him and Angel have had over other teams is that they've often been able to kind of like catch other teams off guard, ante them a bit, come up with like a different idea that just like strictly counters them. I don't think that advantage is going to be there for Navi against Team Liquid because, you know, again, the brothers, like they kind of know how each other think about the game. They like basically have coached together. So I think this could be a pretty easy Team Liquid victory. And I just, like you said, I just don't believe in Navi anymore. Like they have such good player quality, but even if they can somehow like almost like ignore the fact this is gonna sound so bad. If they can somehow ignore the fact that Cena is on their team and just allow Shao and Sugetsu to carry the game, I just don't think that's gonna be enough against Team Liquid. And I don't think they're gonna find form with CNET on this team.
Yeah, it's a very weird thing we've had this year where, you know, we've come back to a Jet meta, and you would have thought like, oh well, Navi have got CNET in a Jet meta, like you know, they're gonna be the best team ever.
Yep.
And it's gone completely the opposite way around, and it's a very odd thing, and this has happened to multiple teams as well, really, where it just feels like maybe some teams are overcomplicating it. Like, you know, for instance, Loud at Masters Tokyo didn't play like barely any Jet, you know, and then you've got Navi where it feels like they almost are like very reluctant to put CNET on Jet on certain maps, but then even when they do, it's not like he's going crazy. It's not like he's justifying putting him on Jet anyway. So
right,
it's just an odd situation, yeah. And I think Team Liquid, all they need to do, Team Liquid, is just not get in their own way, which they very much are capable of doing. Like, this is a team that is very capable of getting in their own way. But as long as they just, to me, they almost need to not think about their opponent. Because I think if they get into the thing of like, it's Navi, our coaches are twin brothers, we know each other really well, this is a big rivalry game for us. If they get into that mindset, I actually think that doesn't help them at all. Because if they just play their normal game, right now how Navi are playing, they should be able to win.
Yeah.
So they just need to like focus on themselves, you know, get in the right mindset. And yeah, as you said, they should be favorites for this whole group, really, considering. But now let's turn to DRX versus Loud, because I mean, I'm going to start with Loud. To me, Loud either finish top 3 or they go on the group.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see any other way. I just don't see any other way. They're either going to stomp people and be insane, and all the rumors and whatever is just, you know, and it's like it was last year where, you know, Master Copenhagen and Loud went out in the group and everyone was panicking, and then they won champs. Right? Like, that could happen again. and Loud could be a massive threat, or all the problems are there to see, and they've got a tough group, right? And if they come up against like DRX twice, and I mean, I'd love to talk about DRX as well, because what are DRX gonna do? I mean, like, what are they gonna do?
What are they gonna do?
I'm gonna ask you right now. Who are they playing? Zest or Foxy9?
Dude, I don't know.
Who would you play? Who would you play?
I saw it.
Zest,
I saw a tweet from Foxy9. He's in LA. They brought him with them. Like,
He's their sub. I mean, Kamik's also in LA, but I don't think he's gonna play for Fnatic.
God.
Who would you play? It's a really good question, actually, isn't it?
It is a good question. I think that DRX will play Zest, because I think they're going to put Buzz on Chamber.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, that could work. I mean, on certain maps, again, if I've mentioned this before, if I'm DRX coming into this tournament, play something weird. And they're not going to, because they're way too safe. I think that's always been my problem with DRX. They're just too safe. It's like sometimes they just need to turn like off, right? They just need to like play ranked for a bit, I think, in a game. I think that almost would help them in some games, because it feels like they just
they're
just too robotic.
The more that you talk about them, the more I think they should play Buzz on Chamber, but they won't.
They won't. No, yeah, they're too safe. They'll stick to Buzz on Jet.
Yeah, man.
Trying to entry, getting killed. The timing isn't quite right anymore. Everyone knows their execs at this point. They get hard anti-stratted. Like, I don't know. This game could be honestly the weirdest game we've ever seen. Genuinely, this could. What if this is just a massive slop fest? Like, really? Like, what if both these teams do turn up and are just god awful?
Like, I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're both going to turn up and be pretty good.
There is a distinct possibility where both these teams turn up and they just are completely off, and it's just like one of the most bizarre things you've ever seen. I don't think it'll happen.
I
wanted to.
I also kind of want it to happen, because to me, what I think will actually happen. This is going to be one of my hot takes. I like making hot takes.
I'm happy.
I think this will be the best match of the entire group stage.
Ooh,
and it will be a crazy, 3-map, 13-11, 13-11, 14-16 banger.
Yeah.
With Loud winning and DRX bombing out of groups afterwards, because they just cannot beat Loud and they mentally crumble after losing to the better
That's
team.
a classic DRX to play a really close game and lose and then bomb out.
Yeah.
They've done that a couple times.
Yeah. I mean, how crazy is it that we are both thinking about the fact that two of the lowest placing teams in the entire tournament are going to be DRX, Navi, and Loud out of those? Like, just that sentence is unbelievable to me.
Yeah, but I mean, the reason we got this group is because they've underperformed before.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the reason we're here. Everyone would have expected DRX to be a 1 seed. Everyone would have expected Loud to be a 1 seed.
Yep.
And like maxed one of Team Liquid or Navi is going to be a 2 seed. And no, Team Liquid were the 1 seed in this group.
Yeah.
And then it fell down from there. I mean, I kind of can't wait. These are the first games, right, of the tournament. I kind of want this shouldn't be. Let's start with Group B. Let's start with Group B.
Save this for that later.
Yeah, like the first games, everyone's excited for the first games. So it doesn't matter if they're bad, because you're excited. Right. It's like, oh, it's champs, and here's the big tournament. I'm excited. Give me these games like in the middle, right, of like a slog. Oh, banger game coming up, right? Like, give me that. Don't give me these games to start, because, I mean, it's going to be fun, but, oh, yeah. Go on, tell me, we haven't really done like hard preds. Who's coming out of this group then?
I'm going to say Liquid and Loud. I have a bit more faith in Loud being able to, because they essentially were running the Harbor Viper stuff for the entire season.
Yeah.
And they've now had enough time off to do something new. And I think they will do something new. I think they will have a new innovation. And I think it will be good. Because I don't think that this is a team that's going to do something.
Any Deadlock believers? Whilst we're here, how many times does Deadlock get picked?
You've broken my brain.
I'm gonna say 1.
1.
I'm gonna say 1.
I
FPX.
could see a Chinese team playing Deadlock
Yeah.
and it looking horrendous and everybody writing it off for the next 2 years.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, I don't think Loud will pick Deadlock. But yeah, I have
Cool
a
if
bit
they
more
did,
faith. I have a bit more faith in this team coming up with something good and innovative that is unique enough to scramble DRX's brain to the point where they will win. And God, I just hate the fact that this team is having internal chemistry issues because I don't know how to think about them at that point. It's just, I know what chemistry does to a team. I know how badly it can make them play. But this team is so good. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm going to say Liquid and Loud. I'm not the most confident about the Loud pick. I'm very confident about Liquid.
Yeah, I almost reluctantly Liquid have to be in there, which is a horrible thing to have to think.
I know.
I can almost say, I would agree with you though. I think Liquid and Loud definitely are the most likely. But honestly, who knows? I mean, honestly, who knows? Maybe even DRX Loud. You know, if Loud are actually good and beat Team Liquid in like the uppers, maybe DRX beat Navi, get a bit of confidence, go beat Team Liquid. Possible, maybe.
Okay.
But Liquid always make it out of groups and then just go home. Like they're just gonna do that again. It's just their fate. That's who they always are.
I have not done my Pickems yet for champs groups. So let's we weren't gonna do all the groups, but let's do Group D Pickems. Let's do it together right now.
Okay. I also need to make an individual video about my Pickems, so this is a bit of a spoiler, but okay. I would say Group D.
Liquid over Navi.
Yeah, gotta have Liquid over Navi. DRX Loud. I mean, sure.
Loud.
It's got to be Loud, I guess.
Okay.
Does it? Yeah. Navi DRX in the lowers. I'd say DRX.
I would agree.
Like DRX still did finish like what 8th or whatever, 7th, 8th. So it's not like it's completely fallen apart. Whereas Navi, I do feel like it's somewhat completely fallen apart. So I'd go DRX in that. Team Liquid Loud in the uppers. Kind of depends on what you think Loud will be. I'll say Loud personally. I'd say Loud.
Okay, so we are going against the fact that Team Liquid is.
What do you think?
Well,
do you think Team Liquid?
God, because here's the thing. Here's where things get really weird.
I'm on the Loud stocks. Let's go.
Here's the thing where things get really weird because if Team Liquid loses to Loud, Liquid are one of those teams that very much can mentally crumble. And then you have Liquid against DRX in the bottom, and you have two teams that are the most...
Whoever wins the first round
wins. Most likely to choke. Oh, Jesus. Just for my own sanity, I'm going to pick Liquid over Loud, and then I'm going to pick Loud over DRX, because DRX will just be incapable of beating a team like Loud. So I'm going Liquid through an uppers.
I'll say that DRX beat Team Liquid, and Team Liquid don't get out.
Okay.
I'll be anti-EMEA and say both the EMEA teams go out. Actually, no way that happens. Liquid and Loud get out. We agree, just in different orders.
Okay, cool. I'm locking in my Pickems for that group. Cool.
Okay, there we go. So now, after doing that, we've now got a kind of, I guess I would call this like awards. Prediction for awards for teams.
Yeah.
So we're going to start with the most likely team to overperform, or a dark horse team. Now, I have to ask, really, because again, I mean, this is interesting. Like, for me, what's your expectation of Loud? Because if you take like, oh, they might go out in groups, they might finish in the top 3. If you average that out, they're going to finish like 7th.
I'm gonna say like community sentiment of like name and expectation of like the community, like not my own personal, because I feel like a lot of people are not really paying attention to the fact that Loud might not be all firing on all cylinders, but people are gonna look at Loud, former champions, that they should be in the top 3.
Yeah, so like overperforming for Loud would be like a grand final / winning.
It would be like an easy win for them.
An easy win. Okay, no chance it's Loud then. They're not going to easily win. Unless like they meet FPX somehow, but that would mean FPX are insane as well. Most likely team to overperform. Oh, I would probably say, see, to me, like Foot or T1 is a good bet because one of them probably is making it out.
Mm-hmm.
But then, does that make it not an overperformance? I don't even know. But that's not really a dark horse because to me, whoever makes it out of Foot T1, if they then just go home, you didn't overperform. You just got an easy group.
Let's be honest. One of them's making it out of groups, and they're going home in the first round.
Yeah, like that's not really an overperformance then, is
No.
it? Really, because
No.
you just got an easy group. I would say the most likely team to overperform is probably, I think Giants. Honestly,
Really?
I think, yeah. I think as much as they annoy me, actually, the Giants have it in them. No, they don't. It's Crew. It's Crew. Because I'm looking at that group and it's like, there's a world where they can get it out of that group, right? Whether it's one of Paper X or EDG, just don't turn up to like the levels we expect. Possible, right? They're both kind of weird teams. We'll have to see. And if Crew, I think, go on that run, like, I mean, again, if you don't count Group B, I mean, Group C would be a miracle if, in my mind, if one of those teams, I mean, maybe Zayat can beat NRG, but I don't really see it happening. And then Group D is like, God knows. So yeah, I think it has to come out of Group A, and I would say, yeah, maybe Crew just find out. If Kesne is frying, that would be my team, Crew. Thoughts?
Right, I had to get a prop real quick.
See, I can't see you, so I'm just sitting here in silence.
That's fine. Leave it in, editor. Make it awkward. So for me, I kind of want to go Crew, but a large part of me doesn't believe. I think that the most likely team from Group A to be a dark horse is Edward Gaming, but again, it kind of depends on like what is the community sentiment. Are people so hyped that they expect Edward to be a top 4 team?
I would say fifth, sixth would be their
expectation.
Well, yeah, their expectation. So a big overperformance would be like top 3.
God, because for me, I don't have the same expectation. I think
then you're wrong because EDG are going all the way.
I mean, I think they're the most likely team to get like top 4 that is not like expected to win the event, I guess. But I guess for me, the most likely team to overperform expectations is Team Liquid. And
what? I thought you were gonna say Zeta Division.
As somebody who has been a Team Liquid hater, I have the jersey in front of me. You can't see it, TMV, but I have a Team Liquid jersey. It pains me to say this, but they're the most likely to overperform.
You've ragged on Team Liquid for
I have.
half of these episodes.
It's awful for me to have to say that, but it's Team Liquid.
Like, if there's any team that I was not expecting you to say, it was Team Liquid. I was like, there's no. So my expectation for Team Liquid again would be like probably somewhere like 5th, 6th. 7th,
That's your
8th?
expectation for them? I would say expectation for everybody's probably somewhere in like the 7th, 8th range, maybe.
So what do you think they'll finish? Top 4, top 3?
I think they'll go top 4, top 3, yeah. I think they'll be the new DRX, which is like a very consistently good crack team that gets into the big moments and then just can't get it over the line.
Yeah, it could happen. It definitely could happen. I mean, it's not out of this world. Redgar needs to. You know what they should? Honestly, if they just put Redgar not on Omen and just had him playing Astra or Brim.
Astra Brim only.
I'd almost definitely agree with you. Okay, our next team is most likely team to underperform.
Team Liquid is my pick. No.
Most likely team to underperform. I guess it kind of is Loud. It's probably the right answer. But you know what? I'm going to go on a bit of a tangent here.
Yeah.
Then again, EG are a decent shout as well. But you know who else is a decent shout? Considering expectation? Fnatic. Because the Fnatic expectation is for them to win the tournament. And anything less than a win is underperforming.
Come on. If they make finals, that's not an underperformance. That's just them being extremely good and consistent, and then there being some variance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, then my pick is EG.
Okay.
My pick is EG because they have an easy group. So again, like if they get out of the group and then go out straight away, I would call that an underperformance, right? Like if they just like even let's say they even like skate by their group, right? That's not impressive to me. I'd be expecting them. My expectation for EG is at least 5th, 6th.
Mm-hmm.
At least. Most likely probably top 4. Maybe even, 3rd, 2nd, 1st.
Wow, you are so high on EG. That is,
bro, did you watch to me, like a big thing to me is like if you're squeaking by a lot of games, that's like you're like a candidate, I think, to just, regress back.
mm-hmm.
You go through their Master Tokyo run, and until they met Fnatic, they destroyed everyone. Like it wasn't close. And when you're destroying teams, that's convincing to me. Like to me, I'm like, well, yeah, that wasn't a fluke that EG got there. Sure, you could say that their performance was like higher than you expected, but it wasn't like they squeaked through and we won, a really close series here or whatever. They didn't drop a map till Fnatic, and like apart from like I think one map against Foot, everything else was just like 13-6. Like they just absolutely rolled through everyone. So to me, it's like, and that was with their best or their star player, you might say, not having an amazing performance. As I said, if Demon 1 shows up and everyone else plays even close to the level they did at Tokyo, they're a really good team. And I think that, yeah, my expectation for them is really high. Now, I would say, again, underperformance to me is them getting to playoffs and crashing straight out. Mm-hmm. I think that is an underperformance for them, which I think could happen.
Yeah.
I think that is a possibility. Obviously, it would depend on who they got out of the groups into the playoffs, but
right.
I think that is a possibility.
Yeah. So for me, again, this is gonna be very painful. I'm gonna say Paper X, and the reason I'm gonna say that is because I think the expectations for this team are so high at this point.
Yeah.
Like because of what they did at Tokyo with the sub, because we've got people like you and Platchat and Sliggy being like, this is a crazy good team. Something is the best player in the world. Like, just so much expectation on this team. And it's just one of those teams, like I said at the beginning, that has somewhat inconsistent win conditions. And it's just one of those teams that I could see just not hitting and losing a bit of confidence, not swinging with the same like vigor that they do into some of these angles. Some of their ability combos are just not quite timed right because they're nervous or they're too excited. And they could just bomb out despite having the talent to be a finalist team. And their group is scary. Their group is really scary. Like, again, if Crew is in LCQ form, that's a scary game. Edward is a team that can match Paper X in terms of their intensity and firepower. And Giants is just, sailing along on smooth seas, like very stable. So it is a team that I could legitimately see going out in groups. It's a team that I could see making it through groups kind of like in a shaky form and going out in the first round of playoffs. And it's also a team that I could see having a deep run. But to me, they're the most likely team to underperform because the expectations are like astronomically high for this team.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. I mean, I did think about them as well. Okay, our next topic. Who will be the breakout star of the tournament? Now, I've been having a little think about this and who I think will do well in this tournament.
You are thinking man's Valorant.
So I have two answers for you. One, I'll need to explain a bit. One is Leo. Now, I know that Leo, to people inside of the scene, and probably most people watching this, already is like, a star player. I put him ranked number 1 in my overall players list. But the name Leo, to, a lot of casual fans or whatever, they probably don't know who Leo is, to be honest. Or, they wouldn't expect him to be, the ranked number 1 player on someone's like top 20 list or whatever. But I think a lot of people are getting there who are inside the scene. Everyone knows inside the scene that Leo's really good. But I think that this might be the tournament where he goes like, oh yeah, this guy's clearly the best player in the world. Right. And it's like everyone like knows, oh yeah, this is the guy who's the best player in the world. So that's like one answer. But if you wanted, a kind of full answer, again, I guess this is somewhat similar again, where people inside the scene may think of this guy as somewhat good. I'm predicting the loud comeback. So I'm going to say Cowan Zine is my other one where, again, Cowan Zine, I think, again, inside the scene, people know like, yeah, good player. But I think if I'm predicting a big, loud comeback, you can't really predict Aspas or less to be a breakout. So I'm going to go with Cowanzine, who I think has the talent to do it. Very young player, has been to multiple internationals at this point, even going back to like NIP. So has experience for a young player, very good player. And if Loud are going to bounce back, they're probably going to need someone like him, to do that. And I think, again, like if they are having internal struggles, probably as a young player who's new to the team, like him and Tui's, probably I don't think would be that involved in it, right? They'd probably be somewhat on the outsides, I would guess, of that struggle. And so maybe it won't affect them as much. And so if Loud, are still, doing well enough to get deep into the tournament, I think it could be on the back of someone like Kalanzine playing very well.
Sure. Yeah. So this is kind of like a poorly worded question for me, I guess, because realistically, the breakout star is sort of like the unknown name that is going to have a crazy good performance, and people are going to know the name afterwards. But we're kind of at this point where a lot of the names are known, right? Because part of me wants to say,
if you follow the scene close enough, you're going to know most of these teams at this point.
Yeah, part of me wants to say somebody like Ethan, but is that really a breakout star? Because he's kind of just like a very, very good player here. So I'm not going to say, like a Saya player, because we'll get to the MVP of the tournament later, which is going to be the best overall performance from somebody. To me, I'm very tempted to say somebody like Yosemite from Bilibili. But I'm actually going to say Cloud from Giants as my breakout star.
Yes.
I think that Cloud is one of those players that is like potential to be a Leo in the right system, under the right coach.
Many said they thought about picking up Cloud.
Yeah, he was scouted for Fnatic, and he very much impressed Mini, and he has very much impressed me throughout the last year and even 2 years, because I remember watching him back when he was on Navi, and I thought he was incredibly good. So Cloud is going to be the person that I think will be more well-known after this tournament, because I think he will impress in a big way.
Yeah, I put him 19 on my top 20 list, and a lot of people were like, Cloud? Why would you put Cloud? Who's Cloud? All of that. So I think, you're making a good point there, because again, I think people who watch like closely a lot of Valorant, like you can see it. They're like, oh, this guy. Leo is a good comparison actually, because it's like he's not always like, top fragging or whatever. It's not like he's going like 100%, getting all the first bloods or whatever. He plays a similar role, but he just always does the right thing. It feels like
decision making incredibly good, utility incredibly good, consistency incredibly good. That's what you really want from that role. So,
okay, then I'll throw it back to you then. Cloud's your breakout star. Who is your MVP of the tournament?
MVP of the tournament, and who do I think is going to win it all? I think the MVP for the tournament for me is one of two people. Number one is Alfier, and number two is Artis.
Ooh, I was not expecting. I thought you were gonna say something or Jing.
No. And the reason, and so Alfier is probably the most likely in my opinion, just because I think what Fnatic does with Alfier in terms of enabling him on the Sentinel role is something that nobody else is really doing. Nobody else is getting the same value out of their Sentinel role that Fnatic is. He is quite literally prime Nats from Gambit, back when Gambit was the best team in the world. And Nats has not regained that form, in my opinion, but Alfier is prime Nats, but potentially even better.
Yeah.
He is just a true anchor, but also an aggressive player that is playmaking on Cypher, on Viper, in ways that nobody else is doing. And I think he is one of those players that will just consistently get you so much value. And he frags like crazy on this team from that role. So yeah, I'd say Alfier is probably my MVP of the tournament, but with the caveat that if Energy leans into the Artist solo play, this could be the tournament where we're like, oh my god, Artist is like, he's that guy that we thought he was last year.
That's interesting about Alpha though, because if he is the MVP of this tournament, then he will solidify himself like as the best player in the world. Right? If he goes back to back international tournaments of being the MVP, he's number one. And I made a hot take. I can't even remember when it was, but I did another one of these lists and I put Alpha at the top. I think it might have been last year's champs. I put Alpha at the top and I was like, just you wait and see. Fnatic are gonna win and Alpha's gonna be the best player. And it didn't happen, but maybe I was just too soon, you're not ready for this yet, but your kids will be, that kind of thing. I was just too soon on that. My MVP though is just gonna be Leo. I just think Leo is the best player in the world. I think Fnatic are favorites for this tournament to win it. The MVP probably will be whoever wins it. Right? Like it would need something crazy performance on like someone who came second to win it. If not, so yeah, I think he's the best. I just think he's the best player in the world, and I think he's just gonna go crazy. If I had to like see someone else, I think something would be my other guess for a player who maybe could win it again in his first international. Maybe just goes crazy. But yeah, those would be my choices. Let's move on to talk about agents. You've wrote here, what agent will have the largest impact on the meta? I am assuming you mean like, not like, oh, it's going to be Jet because she's going to have the highest pick rate, or Killjoy because she's going to have the highest pick rate. I assume you mean like, what agent might surprise, what agent might come out of the blue and make a little, resurgence, or, be played a ton more than you might think.
Yeah, I guess I just mean like what agent is sort of going to
like Harbor, for instance,
like define the meta exactly, like a Harbor that kind of comes out of nowhere and seems very very strong. I'm not mad if you pick something like a Killjoy because
I think it'll be Killjoy. She's gonna have a 70% pick rate.
Right, but I mean, there's gonna be a lot of Killjoy. There's gonna be a lot of Jet. We know this, but which one is kind of going to like determine how teams play the game? Because I do see that this is an opportunity for some large shakeups to happen, but I also could see it be one of those situations where people just realize like there is no better alternative to Killjoy. Killjoy is the truth. Killjoy is the agent that we need to build every comp around. And that's fine. At that point, we definitely need patches and buffs and stuff like that. So I'll give you mine. I think that this is a meta that is very potentially primed for an agent like Cypher to break out. I feel like I've seen some very interesting stuff from Cypher. Again, kind of like maybe even piggybacking off this Alfier pick. I think that Alfier probably has the best Cypher stuff in the world on Split. I think that it's an agent that is probably underappreciated to some extent.
Goes well with your Team Liquid pick as well.
It goes well with Nats. I've just seen teams that have a good Cypher look better than other teams recently. So I'd say that he may be like the impact agent.
I got one for you.
Yeah, go for it.
I'm going to say Raze.
Okay.
The reason I'm going to say Raze is because I think a lot of the teams that we've talked about with their struggles and whatever, I think some of that can be attributed to the map pool. Like, it is quite Raze friendly in a way, right? You've got like Split, you've got Bind, you've got Lotus, where, Raze is going to be a very, very common pick. And now you add in maybe some teams going to Chamber.
And then it becomes a very Raze meta for sure.
And then all of a sudden, Raze is in a big way. If you're playing Chamber on maps where you were playing Killjoy, you bring back in the Raze, and all of a sudden, like, your Raze player, and maybe we saw this, somewhat with like Kesnet on Crew, right? Like going big on the Raze. I mean, Zeta, I'm pretty sure they only played Raze in all of their maps in LCQ.
I think you're correct. No, they played. I'm pretty sure they played Dep on Jet one time, and the rest of it was Raze.
But either way, it was
they played Double Dive, didn't they, on Split? I'm pretty sure.
I honestly can't remember. But
I think they played.
There was a lot of Raze either way, and so I could see it that if certain teams do lean into it a bit more, that having a good Raze, I think could be a big difference maker. And that's the thing about Fnatic. they've got two. They got two great race players because, of course,
Yeah.
they do.
That is true. I guess one last thing I will say, realistically, Cypher's not getting picked on a ton of maps.
Yeah.
But the meta is just so duelist focused right now. Everybody's playing this double dive shit. I think it's very suboptimal on a lot of these maps. I don't think it's good personally.
I'm totally with you. I just don't. Yeah.
I think it's going to get exposed this tournament.
Oh, you think it's going to get exposed? See, I don't trust the teams enough to expose it. That's where we differ, I guess. But I think
that's fair.
I agree that in an ideal world, in my mind, there's no way the double duelist can be the best on quite a few of these maps. But I think we're a few years off teams being able to, like, each year the Valorant improves and you can literally see the improvement. If you go back and watch 2022 champs to this champs, you'll see things like, ultos being picked up, like having the right people plant the spike so that they can get their ult. Like, you see these little improvements that every team has started to make throughout the year. But in terms of like where we are in terms of like comp optimization, in terms of how do we play against this comp, what style do we need to play to beat our opponent's comp, and understanding that kind of level, I think teams are still quite a way off, to be honest.
That's fair.
But maybe we'll get there. Who knows? Maybe this time it just takes one team to do it, and then everyone starts doing it. So we'll have to see. And our last award here will be about maps. The most important map of the tournament or most played. Now, generally speaking, I remember I did a quiz. One of my quiz questions was what the most played maps were. Acend and Haven are always the most played maps in most tournaments. People just love Acend and Haven because they're basic. Not the maps, the people, but also kind of the maps. Haven isn't that basic, I guess, but you get the point.
Yeah.
Anyway, most important map. See, this is the thing again. You have to think about what teams are going to go deep. Like if you're expecting Fnatic to go deep, so that's a lot of Pearl bans. In those games, you could definitely see that happening. But maybe they bring out Pearl, like you were mentioning at the start. In which case, like, all of a sudden, you got the Americas teams love playing Pearl. Even Giants, even some of the EMEA teams, Navi, Giants, they've started to play Pearl a bit. And, if Fnatic did it, then, that's a lot of teams that all of a sudden, like, don't mind Pearl. So I could kind of see that. And with the changes on Pearl as well, I think more teams are maybe a bit more comfortable with the map in terms of defending it.
Yep.
And I think that actually would be my pick because I think that Pearl, what I've seen so far from, like, the new Pearl and the LCQs is that some teams really struggle to attack it, and some teams still really struggle to defend it.
Mm-hmm.
We saw like in some of these games, some teams were just going A. Like there was games, I think Giants might have been one of them, where they just didn't go B. Like I swear I saw a couple of EMEA games where teams just kept hitting A over and over again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so I think that Pearl might be an interesting one where, with those changes on B, even though they were, fairly, they weren't the massive changes, but, just enough, it seems like, where one, we've maybe had a bit of a change in meta, our team's still going to be playing Harbor Viper. I've seen a lot of teams just run like solo Astra, double initiator stuff again. So that will be kind of interesting to see. And then two, like, as I said, some teams seem to struggle on one side of the map all of a sudden with those changes. So I think that like could be a big thing that decides a lot of these games. Like, are you good on Pearl, one side or the other? Because if you're not, maybe we get some upsets that way.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty good shout. For me, I'm going to say Fracture, because I think Fracture has some of the most comp diversity still, and I don't think the meta has really settled on that map since, buffs and nerfs and kind of a shakeup. We saw EG come out with this Sova stuff. I assume some teams will copy that.
And half the teams don't know how to play the map.
A lot of teams don't know how to play it. Chamber's gonna shake stuff up.
Yeah, that's a good shout as well.
It's a good raise map. It's a good breach map. I think both those agents are going to be very important. Yeah. I think Fracture is, and it's a map that's in a lot of teams' wheelhouse as like being one of the maps they like to play. So I could see a lot of Fracture getting played, and I could see a lot of sort of like Fracture diffing happening in this tournament for sure.
Yeah. That's a good shout as well. I think God, I'm telling you now. This is my prediction. They're gonna get rid of Fracture, like next rotation. At least, I mean, they might do 2 rotations to be fair, but definitely one of them is gonna be Fracture. I can just feel it. It's not in the Premiere. It's the only map that hasn't been in Premiere, and that feels like a clue that they're gonna get rid of it. So
you heard it here first. Clip that. Yeah. Fracture out of the map pool. Confirmed.
Fracture's. I've got a feeling it's gonna go, and I'm gonna miss it because to me it's like, it's so different that it's actually like it's interesting because it is so different. I know that a lot of people hate it because it's so different because like they're just not used to it, but especially when watching pro play, it's just refreshing to see people just run in like every round, rounds just being over in 20 seconds. You get games like that on Fraction. It's just interesting to just like sit back and just watch for a bit and not having to worry about like, oh, they've gone and taken a main and now here they come back again. Like, no, just go and run to the fucking site. Just go down B main and just run it down their throats. God, DRX, please just play your old comp with Chamber. Please just put RB on Neon and just play your old comp and just fucking run it down at them again, lads. Let's go, DRX. Let's go.
Thanks for watching.
They're going out straight away.
What do we do? Win!